Hey folks, welcome to another battle report. This is Saga Age of Magic, and I'm actually going to try and do a video battle report on this one. I've basically recorded it using my GoPro, and I'm going to do it at probably about 5 times the speed and narrate alongside it. I'm not too sure how this will work out, but hopefully it'll be okay, and you'll be able to keep up with what needs to be done, what needs to be seen. And I'm even going to try and add in some images just to pop up so you can see some close-ups of certain combats and whatever. So fingers crossed all goes well. This might be a regular then, and I'll start recording some of the other games I play, including, Warhammer and whatever else. Right guys, let's get to the video. So we're going to do, I think it's attack the baggage or something. So none of us start on the board, and in the first turn we get to move on. So obviously neither of us rolled any saga dice, and we just generated the ones that allow us to move on to the board. And yeah, and we go from there. One thing I do step back and do is move the baggage, because that should be done at the beginning of each turn. But other than that, as you can see here, I'm playing against the Wild Kingdoms, I think it is. Basically, he's got his 2 flying monsters, unit of Levy with Javelin. He's got 2 creatures there, there's ogre-sized things. I think that's his warriors he's put in the woods. The guys in the front are like the Way Watchers. They're actually an 8-man Hearthguard unit, which is quite terrifying with bows. And you see there, they're just measuring to keep the distance away from the baggage, because we can't come on at a point within L and M of the baggage. This game lasts 5 turns, and the baggage is controlled by neither of us. It'll randomly move on as things come on, and moves at the beginning of each of our activations. We have to roll for it. He's also got a Titan, is the big monster. His general's mounted, and the other little thing he just put back in the background there is a shaman. So with the opponent with all its forces on, it's my turn to move mine on. I've got a unit of, I think it's an 11 warrior and a 10 warrior of which with bow. These are my skinks. I purposely start moving up into the trees. This is because I know the wilds have got abilities that can shoot out of woods as long as there's no one in it. So as long as I've got someone in it, that woodland is safe. And I don't think you can get from the marsh, because it only works in uneven terrain, and since marsh is dangerous terrain, that doesn't work. So I've got a 10 and an 11 of skinks with bows, or warriors with bows, and I've got a 10 and 11 of Saurus warriors, which are my warriors with just hand weapon and shield, so no upgrades. And then I've got 3 creatures, and shaman, and a hero. And of course I'm taking snaps here, because I'm not entirely sure this is going to work, so just for backup I've got a couple of photos. And you see here, we're just rolling for movement of the baggage. Basically, I think it's a 1 or 2, it stays still but removes fatigue. 3 or 4, it moves forwards 3 to 5, as it moves forward 6 inches and loses a fatigue, and on a 6 it moves forward 6 inches and removes all its fatigues, which is quite cool. It's quite nice to have something, just constantly moving, so we have to react to it. So it's back to my opponent's turn. He's just rolling up his saga dice, and I think he's generating 7 saga dice. He's got 1, 2 creatures, levy, there's a leader, unit of warriors, and a unit of Hearthguard. 6, and his big guy. So yeah, he's got 7. I think I'm only maxing out on 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I've only got 6 dice. So he's just going to pick what he wants. Spells wise, I can't really remember. I know my opponent had one that allowed him to basically make a move, or a free activation. But we'll see how it goes. So I thought we'd just have a quick overview so you can see how things are looking. And so just after he moves up, just gives you a bit of space just while he's deciding what to do. Yeah, as you see here, he starts moving up to the centre. I see my main plan here is on my right hand side. My Saurus Warriors will try and intercept the baggage. If the baggage moves, by the way, and you're in the way of it as it moves, you end up taking a fatigue. So you can block it, but it costs you fatigue, so it gets quite expensive. Opponent, I don't know what he's rolling for there. Must have been his magic. So he's got something that'll give basically a free activation on a decent dice. Here he's just about to move the javelin up, and the saga, the baggage is we can't use any SAGA abilities on them, and they count as enemy for both of us. And by the way, here's birds that have just flown over to the side. They basically use to fly a special ability, which is if you able to use your maneuver, you can basically remove them from the board and place them anywhere down L away from the enemy. So he's shot from this side right over to the other side, which is just a fantastic thing with flies, and something I think I'll have to get some pterodons for, because they are quite nippy. I do quite like that. As you can see, my opponent's just pushing up into the centre, ready to capture things as they come across. So as you can see here, I start moving stuff, referring to it, then I remember at the beginning of my activation I have to move these guys up and keep the baggage moving. I'm not going to narrate all the way through this, because as much as I'd like to, it's quite hard, I've realised, to constantly narrate. At least with my pictures, I have these things to narrate about at the time. But we'll just go with it. As you see, I'm just checking out, seeing if I'm within L of the enemy. So I just get my free manoeuvre, which is basically a free first move when you have more than L and finish more than L away. So it's just good to bring up guys from the back to get things moving. Also, during this turn, I think my opponent will play an ability, which just comes in there. Basically, it's played on the model unit that's activated, which was my first ones, and then the next two activations I have, I believe, are slow. Oh no, it's this one he played it on. That's why I put a dice there, and it's the next two activations in my army are done through uneven ground. I had thought that those guys, which I moved up, was affected. That's why I put the dice next to them. Then I realised it's the actual next two activations, not that unit's next two activations. So I did one guide running through the woods anyway, so I was suffering from uneven, and obviously moved my creatures up as well. And my opponent had a reaction ability, I believe, which allows him to move in reaction to something else, as long as they're in a wood. So these, the woodland guys are quite nasty. I'm glad I put my guys in the woods so I don't get any shots from that, because with an 8-man unit, I believe you can have those attacks that they would generate out from a woodland, which is rather terrifying. So here I'm just deciding on what to do next. I haven't used my magic yet, so I've got my wizard up to help support. I think I had Elemental Barrier, Tempest and Blinding Light as the spells I picked just to try them all out. The Elemental Barrier I thought might be quite good, just to protect a particular unit against his shooting. But I believe if I cast it, I'm not allowed to do anything else with that unit. And it basically either puts me in soft cover, hard cover, or might give me a resilience bonus. And here I just take some shots and actually managed to do a casualty. You see I put little just markers down there just to show, and that was me casting my spell as well. As we get the next turn started, we start moving up for the baggage. The little bits of terrain, like the individual trees and the walls, they're nothing, they're just there for pretties really, so we can move them freely as we like. As you can see, I'll take plenty of photos, just in case this never worked out. So you might notice there's both thinking around. That's because I'm up against two players. They joined forces to have a go at me. One is in control of the scenario and keeping an eye on where it should go, and the other, who owns the miniatures, Nick, was just cracking on with the game itself. So it takes him a bit longer just to chat about, just as they decide which magic spells to use and how best to push forward and take what you need. So if you beat the baggage, basically it becomes an objective marker. Objective markers are beasts to carry. Not only do they count, you end up counting as moving in uneven terrain. That slows you down to a 4-inch manoeuvre, but it also causes fatigue every time you move. So yeah, they're really ghastly to have on you, that's for sure. So you see the opponent there just measuring around to see what's in range for a manoeuvre. Obviously most of his stuff is out for manoeuvre, but his flying creatures, yep, over L away, and he just moves them up to L, which means they're still 2 actions away from a charge, but it's a free move to get them a bit closer. Here he used his magic spell ability, which allowed the unit to lose a fatigue and get a free action, and go straight in for the baggage, which is an armor 5, 3 attacked unit, and against the 2 ogres, which have got what 10. So I'll say 3 each. It's not as 5 each. 10 attacks. Should be able to take that one out quite easily. So as you can see, my opponent manages to take it out, in which case we just leave it as a token for them. My opponent then tries to move off, and of course, as I say, you move as if in uneven ground, and you gain an extra fatigue as well. So with the fatigue combat, moving to gain a fatigue, and I think it was an extra fatigue to go in, I can't remember now. I think they've got 3 fatigue on them, so if I can just get a few shots off them, I should be able to take those 2 out. The problem is, what my opponent will wisely do is start moving stuff up in the way, just to block them off. Next up, I think my opponent does some shooting and has a go at my warriors due to the fact that my bowmen, and by the way, I'm the Great Kingdoms. I don't think I actually mentioned that. I'll remember now. I am the Great Kingdoms, and they start shooting at my warriors. 8 Hearthguard unit does do some pain against my poor chaps. So next up, my opponent moves up his javelin armed levy unit and just leans a whole bunch more javelins at me. So these poor guys are having a hell of a time. He's purposely not firing at my archers in the centre because I have the elemental wall up. I take a fair bit of damage there. These guys will just have to run back and save me a saga dice. The last thing I want to do is lose a saga dice this early on, really. So what I'm trying to do now is edit out any of the areas that seem to be pausing just for time for players to think. And what he does here is decides to go with his javelin take on my warriors, but I had a stand and shoot capability up, one of my saga dice, and actually managed to get 3 off with my stand and shoot. He didn't realise he had that, and he put some defense ability up to get some extra defense dice. And I just go all out. I don't think I've got anything else. I've only got soft cover from my spell, so this is not going to help me in combat. So with increased casualties and going in, I managed to force him back out again, and he retreats. So with all of that done, I think that's the end of his turn, and we go on to my turn, and we start off with moving the baggage trains. Start marching them up, and again, everyone that moved into one of the units gives that unit a fatigue. So what I end up doing here is deciding to move these guys up to a position to fire, but I also leave the back guys in the terrain. Obviously they're slowed down, but as long as I've got something in the terrain, my opponent can't use his Kingdoms of the Wild abilities from shooting out the terrain. Because I mean, if he shoots out terrain, I think you can, I say, shoot out with a unit. So basically, he'll have his Hearthguard be able to shoot out from that terrain, and that could probably take out my Shaman back there, or finish off my small 4-man unit of warbands. And here I'm just trying to do a Tempest, and just trying to affect as many units as I can, slowly rolling through, trying to put fatigue on each of them. I did this a couple of times, and damn it, I couldn't get anything with it. It's really annoying. I always had to have the weaker version because my dice rolling was appalling. I pulled back those guys there, basically just to give me some cover and save those Saga dice, because if I lose one more warrior, they'll no longer generate Saga. And this was my chance to go in and get rid of one of the baggage, and I was quite happy to give it to a large unit of warriors. They've got loads of wounds they can hold off and hope to just walk behind my upcoming creatures. But unfortunately, I actually go in and lose the combat. I couldn't believe that. Got 2 fatigue on it. They have resilience 1, so I then go in with my hero to follow that up. And unfortunately, my hero didn't do any better. Oh man, it was just so annoying. I can't remember what my opponent was checking for then. I was not sure on that one. But yeah, he goes in and yeah, he fails as well. So a unit of warriors went in against the baggage and failed, and then my hero went in against the baggage and failed. That was really annoying. And now we'll roll up for my opponents, because that's all I did in my turn. So my opponent's turn, he decides to move up with his mage, use his ability which gives him a free rest and maybe a free activation on the ogre unit there. That's at the moment, I think, exhausted, or damn near being exhausted. This is just him rolling for a spell. Yep, gets fatigue, and he's got his free movement as well. He next then moves his Hearthguard up to start blocking off any of my archers from taking any shots against those ogres, which is a good call. And I mean, resilience 1, I think they were resilience 1, so I only have to get 1 wound through to do some casualties, and they're still got what, 2 or so fatigue on them. And then he's up with some shooting again, and I use, I think, a defensive ability, gives me some extra defense dice, so I'll just put them there separately. And here's a go at my warriors again, and with my extra defense dice I only take a couple of casualties, which is pretty good against the that Hearthguard shooting, because it's quite nasty. So he decides to shoot again, putting fatigue on his unit, and has a go again against my archers, and yeah, shot the hell out of those guys, down to just 2, so they're no longer generating any Saga dice from me, so that's them dropped off. So next up, he starts moving his leader across, just so he can check out some abilities, and gets his levy up again just to do a bit more shooting. No, rests them up, ready to do some shooting in a minute, because he's got the the baggage there just in front of him, and he really wants that right now. He's just moved his warriors again with a special ability, I believe, that allowed them to move easier through the woods from memory, and they just popped out again just to cover up, and then getting ready for the counter-attack with the flying creatures, and with the 12-inch attack. That's pretty scary with those guys. And I think that's it for my opponent's turn. So into my go, and I start rolling for my baggage, see where it moves to, see what trouble it causes. And the one puts fatigue back on that levy, which you removed earlier with this action, which I was quite happy about. And the other one didn't move at all, which is excellent, because that means he's right in front of me. So for my first action, I rest my general and let him loosen that fatigue, because he's got a lot of it. So I'm trying to think what I was going to do with my shaman, but so what I did was I moved him up and then cast the Tempest spell, and there's another spell as well, so I stuck 3 dice in the Tempest spell, trying to get the best one off I could, and I think I got the 5 up one, but unfortunately all I did, I think, was put fatigue on the leader. And then with the other dice I used it to cast the resilience one. I managed to get the best roll, so my warlord's actually resilience 4 for a turn now, which is quite useful. So just to show that, I put a dice next to it just to remind me what he had off. Next up, yeah, here comes my big assault. I use my warlord to give him a shove, and then chuck these guys in. This is a chance because it's slaughter points, and you get an extra 6 points for each objective marker you hold. So objective markers are worth a hell of a lot, but also survival points, I think it was. So I really want to do as much damage as I can to the opponent, and the Hearthguard unit is probably the best one to do. My opponent struggles to work out now just whether to spend my fatigue or not, to drop my armour, because at the moment we're 4-4, and I'm going in with 15 dice to his 14. I mean, these bloody bowmen are actually quite resilient, so I got some abilities up, gave me some extra defense dice and just went for it. And with some good rolling I do a lot of damage, and then with my extra, I think I had like 6 extra defense dice, I saved pretty much everything, and I think I only got 1 fatigue on me. Yeah, 1 fatigue, and actually wiped out the Hearthguard unit. So that was a fantastic exchange for me. I think that was 2 points, and I hadn't even lost half a point. Effectively a 1.5 point unit there. So my next plan is to move up my warriors and try and grab the baggage that is closest to me. What I have to do is, as you see, it's actually regenerated the fatigue, because pretty much on all its dice rolls it's able to get fatigue back, so I didn't have much to spend on it. So I just go in and hope for the best, hopefully do better than I did last time, and I did manage to do it. So I have now got an objective token, which makes things so much better for me. It was going to be a struggle for points otherwise. So with that underway, I mean, I think that was my turn over, and I don't believe I've got anything else to do. No, I'll just move up my chaps here so I can get some shots on, especially on the big monsters coming in. Fire and shooting's really good against creatures, and as you can see, I've purposely left one of the guys in the terrain piece just so my opponent doesn't get any of his spells off. No, not spells off, but saga abilities. So the first thing my opponent does is starts moving up his levy just to get out of the way. I think he's trying to get his Titan through, just to grab the objective, which is fair enough. I think he's planned to get his Wizard to come across and try and give a full rest action on the Titan and a free activation as well. So he moves up here, and because he's got javelins, he'll be able to move and shoot without getting fatigue. So I think he does, and tries to, yes, right, tries to chuck some on my. What does he go for? I think it should have been my ogres or creatures, but I don't think he does. And then, yeah, he tries to move across here, and I call spend one of his fatigues to slow him down so he can't actually activate. So he decides, well, it's not actually going to get his wizard anywhere sensible, so it ends up moving him back and just casts his spells off where he stands, which I think is probably just removed a fatigue off his ogres or something like that. So he ends up using his general, I believe, to push in the big guy. And we'll just see what he does here. Yeah, his general goes in. Oh, that's right. His general goes in to take up the objectives. He's only mounted. He's not a beast or anything. He goes in and, yeah, unfortunately, he smashes it, which my leader could not do. He managed to do it. It does end up with 2 fatigue on himself at the end of that. I actually managed to get a wound through with the 3 baggage attacks, which I was quite impressed about. But this was great for me. I was quite happy with that. With 3 fatigue on him, I could just get my archers up and shoot off his general. Being mounted, his armor's gone down to 4. And then he puts his big beastie into my my creatures, and so this was going to be quite painful. I don't think I had any abilities up right now. I think I just used everything to get the manoeuvring that I needed in the previous turn and to survive the previous turn. He does end up spending my fatigue. I can't remember if I end up spending one of his. I think I do. No, I end up spending both of his, probably to go defensive just so I survive, because I didn't believe I could take him out, because they've got resilience too, so you're looking at doing at least 9 wounds to the damn thing to be able to kill it off, which sounds like a lot, but against shooting you can chip away with it 1 wound at a time for each fatigue, so it kind of wastes their resilience. So yeah, the position I took to raise my armour up was great, and which meant he survived. And as you see here, he's just measuring up just to see what is going to be coming in, because he's unsure how he can actually block my guys from coming in and doing some shooting. But what's unfortunate is we're nearly to the end of the video. My recording stopped. I was messing around with this, trying to get some practice with it done with it. But unfortunately, that meant I actually left all my previous recordings on it, so I actually ran out of space. Let's see. Oh yes, he chucked his shaman in just to try and finish off my 2 guys, because I think they were exhausted now, so it was unlikely he would die, and vice versa, and just to get the extra points, because he's worried that he was going to lose his leader. If he doesn't, he'll win this with ease, having 12 points on objective so far. But I could easily swing the other way, and yet he manages to get the full point off by finishing off my guys. So this is the last image of the game, and basically what happened in my turn is I spent my actions to move my warrior archers up from the left hand side there, who shot at his hero and managed to kill off his hero, and then went for the objective and literally 1 move away from grabbing the objective, but my opponent spent 2 fatigue to cancel my activation. And with that, I had no capabilities of making any more actions, and that was me done. Yeah, it got really close towards the end there. We totted up all the scores, and it was a 2 points difference in my favour, so it was just enough for me to win. If he had, as I say, if he had had that objective, he would have won. If his hero had survived and maybe not even grabbed the objective, my opponent would have won. So that was a pretty damn close game. Great fun, and I hope you enjoyed this format. I'm going to be practicing at it more and more. I've been towards the end of this, I managed to cut out more of the stuff so I could narrate over it a lot easier, and hopefully that'll work out, because I don't believe any video should be more than half an hour long, because it gets boring after that long. So I hope this was okay and wasn't too much for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Farewell.